In previous presentations, I have presented definitions of culture, intercultural competence, and established intercultural conflict as the result of some basic ideas which are called dyadic continua. Gary Weaver gives us the concept of continua, but not as binary opposites, but culture as occurring along a continuum with defined extreme pairs on one side or the other. I call Weaver's model dyadic continua. Dyadic because dyads occur in consort with one another, but both have the same nature. Male and female are dyadic, like brother and sister are dyadic. Star Wars Episode 7 to 9 explores dyads of the Force to give you something in sci fi to go off. No matter what, we're only dealing with the good and acceptable behaviors within a culture, which is to say that we are only defining what cultures accept as good and acceptable behaviors in that culture. This also establishes culture as a non-binary, where one is not considered better than the other or more acceptable, or one is good and the other is bad. Many people look at culture in a binary way. My way of life is better than that person's way of life. It's not interculturally competent to view culture and cultural difference in this way, due to the reasons I've already cited and many that you'll learn along the way. A group's collective way of being is that group's preferred way. Culture, then, is not a binary relationship where being on one side eliminates or negates the other. Acceptable ways of being political are liberal and conservative. And while they might claim opposition to one another, most people do not fit on the one or the other extreme, but fall somewhere in between. We have, from more recent cultural affordances, the same analysis of feminine and masculine, where one person or another may identify as more or less feminine or masculine. But the relationship, once again, is not binary. This does not mean that values are not established in the identification. It just means that these are both acceptable identities, which are non-binary. So since we are only dealing with the good and acceptable ways of being, we see culture and its expressions as all being on the good side of a binary, eternal battle, perhaps, between good and evil. Culture is all on the good side. If you disagree with this, then you have a definition of culture that I would not accept. In a previous presentation, we presented that chart briefly, but have gone into the dyadic relationship, and we looked at some of Edward T. Hall's basic dyadic classifications. Go to that video if you're interested in learning more about these terms, chronemics, proxemics, or kinesics. The effects of intercultural differences are real, and they have real effects. We know them when we see them, and we definitely feel them when we go to live abroad. I will discuss culture shock in another video. And these are how they are real. Most of culture is nonverbal, and we feel those differences more than we see them. But these are dyadic tendencies that are helpful for us to understand when we cross cultures or work in intercultural spaces. Each culture needs to solve the problem of time, space, and movement. Knowing how your destination culture, second culture, may deal with these will help you both adjust to that culture as well as to understand some of your uncomfortable moments. And these dyads are numerous. In future presentations, we will introduce and discuss these in greater depth from some of the more popular and applicable interculturalists of our time. To remind you, you should now have a definition of culture that is your own, but you also should be working on a meaningful definition of intercultural competence. Here are a few for you to chew on that go beyond my own presented elsewhere. Spend some time now thinking about these and others you may have encountered and define intercultural competence so that you can begin to operationalize the definition going forward. After all, you've come this far. While I use these videos as presentations for the courses I teach on intercultural competence, they're also freely available for anyone to watch. So please feel free to like it or subscribe to this channel as you see fit, or share it. Your feedback is valuable to me to help make sure that things are clear to you as my students or as someone interested in intercultural competence. And may you find the peace you're looking for.